We will call the meeting to order. First item is the audio visual recording that we are on Facebook Live. So welcome everyone who's tuning in. Next item is the land acknowledgement, which I'll ask Elizabeth to read, please.
Kettle Creek Conservation Authority wishes to acknowledge the treaty and traditional lands originally occupied by the Indigenous First Nation peoples of the Anishinaabe, Attawaddaron, and Haudenosaunee nations. KCC strives to build meaningful relationships with Indigenous communities and recognizes the importance of respecting these treaties and lands.
Thank you. Our next item is the minutes of the meeting held on August the 22nd. Any questions, comments, concerns? Seeing none, roll call, please.
Frank Burse.
Yes.
Jim Herbert.
Here, yes.
Jerry Cribble.
Yes.
JJ Strybosh.
Not here.
Unmute, sorry. Yeah, I wasn't there, so I think I need to abstain.
Thank you. Sam Trousseau.
Yes.
And John Wilson is absent. Todd Noble is absent. Aaron McMillan is absent. And Joe is absent.
The crippled one. Oh, that's awful.
And me.
Lori Baldwin Sands.
Yes,
No.
thank you. Welcome, John.
Clavicle is no longer attached to my shoulder.
I guess you're not golfing today.
I don't think I'll golf again. I'll have enough of that.
Thank you. We will move along to the matters arising from the minutes. The first, Elizabeth, please.
So a lot happening over the past month. We've had some job openings posted. And we had a successful tree day event down at Dan Patterson Conservation Area with a number of volunteers coming out to plant trees down at Dan Patterson, doing some infilling for us down there. We've also released some mink, were released in cooperation with Another Chance Wildlife down at Dan Patterson Conservation Area, which got a lot of response from the public as well. In terms of, Chair, if I can move ahead to project tracking. In terms of project tracking, the biggest event that we had over the past month was, of course, the Deer Ridge Grand opening. But staff have also been doing fish surveys, getting underway. Preparations are underway for the Carolinian Forest Festival, as well as a drum fest was held down at Dan Patterson Conservation Area, which is a kind of a unique event in that people come out with their actual drum kits and have some drumming fun down at Dan Patterson. And just some highlights of the Deer Ridge Grand opening, just really pleased with the turnout. I know Ted and Dougie were pleased with the event as well. Lots of positive feedback from the media and on social media, lots of likes and shares, and people from the broader community coming out to check out that trail. We had people attend the event from Elmer as well as London coming down specifically just to check it out. So nice to see that community engagement there as well.
Can I ask a question here on that? If it went down the trail a bit, but I'll go with that. And it was a well done, I thought, and it's a good location. When you go down the trail, does the trail come back to the entrance or does it exit somewhere else?
No, it does loop around. So if you do the full trail, it loops around to the far end of the hydro corridor and you just come back through the hydro corridor to the entrance.
Okay, so you have to walk down where the hydro stations are, so to speak. Gotcha. Okay. Thank you.
In terms of matters arising, Jen is on vacation this week, but the watershed conditions, the water courses continue to fluctuate with rain events, and she's been busy doing surveys in 15 watershed locations for the drain classification project. and just some highlights of the small fish that she's been finding during those surveys.
Any questions or comments from the matters arising? Seeing none, the recommendation is that we have the staff reports on the matters through A and C be received. Roll call, please. Oh, sorry, mover. Thanks, Jim. Seconder, John. Thank you. Roll call, please.
Frank Burrs,
Yes.
Jim Herbert,
Yes.
Jerry Kibble,
Yes.
JJ Strybosh,
Yes.
Sam Trousseau,
Yes.
John Wilson,
Yes.
Lori Baldwin Sands,
Yes,
and that motion passes.
thank you. Next is correspondence,
No
Yes.
correspondence,
and next is statement of revenue and expenses.
no statements this month.
Thank you. Items of new business, please.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
First item is the flexible work arrangements policy. This is something that I've contemplated for some time. But as you know, we have some open positions with the authority right now, and I thought it was important to bring it into place now. The policy that's presented to you is mimicking a lot of similar policies from neighboring CAs as well as your member municipalities. It's mainly brought in order to promote and enhance employee work-life balance, noting that in-office, face-to-face communication continues to be the main principle or the main objective of our workplace. So in that sense, the right to work from home or to have an alternate work schedule is a privilege, not a right. What the policy actually proposes is up to 2 days work from home that's coordinated with the supervisor and or a choice of an alternate work schedule. Both of these options, I think, give the flexibility to staff but don't jeopardize the authority's ability to maintain face-to-face communication with our clients, as well as staff and board members, and also maintains work during the core hours of 9 to 3 and does not impact the office being open from 8:30 to 4:30. So what was included in your package was the actual policy, as well as the various attachments to that policy, including a work from home agreement that staff must sign and get approved before entertaining this, and the alternate work schedule form as well, where staff can identify if they're choosing to choose an alternate work schedule for a period of time. The alternate work schedules, again, that were proposed, you can see on the screen in front of you, promote that 9 to 3 of core hours and does not prevent the authority from being open to the public from the 8:30 to 4:30 that we currently are. So the motion that's proposed is that flexible work arrangement policy be approved.
Questions or comments from the members?
I'll move the motion.
Okay.
I do have a question. Sorry.
You can ask questions after the motion. Okay. You want a seconder? Yeah.
Sure.
Okay. Now we're
And
ready.
seconded by Jim.
Now we can talk. Now we can talk.
All right, questions or comments, Jerry?
Thank you, and through the chair to the staff. I'm not in favor of these policies, I'll be honest with you. Having said that, I do understand that the market is totally different now, and when we are recruiting, there must be, for us to be competitive, I do understand that. Having said that, 2 things that I always mention, and the first one is, if these individuals, if they are working out of the home, if there are certain performance matrix that they could be still tracked. So it's not really, and I'm going to exaggerate, I'm not going to say that this is the case, but with the 2 weeks, so it doesn't become a 4-day weekend. That's one thing. Second thing is, legally, if we put this policy, are we protecting ourselves if let's say this person misuses these 2 days and there is no, there are issues with performances. Do we have some power to use this so the individual doesn't say the policy clearly states 2 days at work? So I just wanted some feedback. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Listen, do you have any feedback from Jerry?
So Jerry, I share some of those sentiments, and then I think that the message to the existing staff is that we have to make this work, that it can't be a detriment to our current performance and our current outreach and communication with clients. Not all staff will be eligible for this. I think the policy outlines various things that they have to meet. They have to be able to perform their job at the same level of performance or better, working from home. In terms of the legal aspect, I think the policy is clear that this is a privilege, not a right. It can be canceled. It's clearly stated in the policy, it can be canceled by the authority at any time based on performance or any other reason. So I do feel that it's strong enough that it protects the authority against the assumption that work from home is a right and is in part of their employment.
Thank you, Elizabeth, and no more questions, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you, Jerry. Anyone else? Frank, please.
Well, I've answered my own question, so you've looked at other places, like this isn't invented out of nowhere. This is in vogue now. If you want to attract people, I think you have to offer this. Maybe you've experienced that. When you go out there, people are looking for this. So I'll just leave it at that. You'll have to police it.
Yep.
Thanks for your comments, Jim. Go ahead.
Through the chair, you've done a great job on this, Elizabeth. You've covered all your bases. We need to move forward with it. I fully support it. So thank you very much for your hard work.
Thank you, Jim. John?
Yeah, through the chair.
I'm sorry, JJ.
Oh, sorry. Okay. Yeah, in my experience, I've worked mostly in industry on flex hours, and what we're doing here, proposing here, is actually very restrictive compared to other options that are out there. I think that's fine. Just to clarify, though, that people need to understand that in their week, they need to still have put the total number of hours in. They're working at home, the 9 to, I have to go back to that page, 9 to 4, whatever, availability, or 9 to 3 availability doesn't mean that's their work day. That should just be clear. That's all I wanted to say.
Thank you for those comments. And John, please go ahead.
Yes, in Malahide, we tried hiring planners, a few different rounds of hiring, and basically couldn't hire people because we didn't have any work from home stuff. But when it's a municipal or government sort of outfit, it's different than private industry. You have to have public faces in the building in order to sort of fulfill your mandate. So I think this is a good balance between, what the current mandates are, put up with and what we need to uphold on our end. So I think it's a good balance.
Thank you for your comments. Frank, did you have an additional?
Oh,
Thank you. Is that every member of the committee that wants to weigh in on the subject? Thank you. We've had it moved and seconded. Call the roll call.
Frank Burrs,
yes.
Jim Herbert,
Yes.
Jerry Pribble,
Yes.
JJ Strybosh,
Yes.
Sam Trousseau,
Yes.
John Wilson,
Yes.
Roy Baldwin Sands,
Yes.
and that motion passes.
Thank you. Our next item is the 2025 budget approval timeline. Elizabeth.
So just this report just gives members information about the 2025 budget approval process, as well as highlights requirements under the City of London's budget submission. So as you recall, the City of London does do a four-year budget. We do mimic that with our own planning process in order to feed into their process. Based on the strategic work plans that we devised last year with the next 4 years, we budgeted basically a 7.5% increase in 2024, 7.5% in 2025, and then reducing that to 4% in 2026 and 2027. Those budget projections were approved by the City of London as part of their budget process in March of last year. In accordance with that budget process, every year are able to look at our budget and refine it to the City of London. They do require basically a draft submission approved by the board by September 30th of this year. I'm proposing to the City of London at this time that we would not have any changes to our 7.5% increase to the budget submission that we had in front of them. Having said that, we still need to go through our internal budget processes. And the City of London is always aware that our budget formally is not approved by this board until February at the AGM. So staff have already begun refining this 2025 staff budget. I'm proposing that we have an executive committee early in October, and I'll be polling executive members to come up with a specific date for that, where we can review the 2025 staffing and salary reviews. At the October meeting, then I hope to have a first draft operational budget, or at least some discussion points for the board member to sink their teeth into, with the aim to have a first draft budget up to our member municipalities after following the November meeting. That leaves November and into December for any consultation with member municipalities, so that we can have the second draft budget at the December 18th meeting for circulation to our member municipalities and advise them of the apportionment vote in January. And finally, the formal budget approval in February of 2025. So this is more of just highlighting that process to the board members, but also getting their acceptance and acknowledgement that I'd be maintaining the 7.5% increase at this time to the City of London's budget process.
Thank you. Recommendation that the 2025 budget approval timeline report be received, and further that the City of London 2025 budget submission be approved with a 7.5 increase to the municipal cost apportionment. Can I get a mover and a seconder, please? Can we get Sam and Jerry in on this?
Yes,
Sam?
Yes,
I'll move this. Yes,
Thank you, Sam and Jerry.
Yes. yes,
yes,
second,
We got you.
Gary
Stan.
seconds,
Okay,
yes,
on the motion, Frank Burrs,
Yes.
Jim Herbert,
Yes.
Jerry Pribble,
yes,
JJ Strybosh,
Yes.
Sam Trousseau. Sam,
yes,
thank you. John Wilson,
Yes.
Lori Baldwin Sands.
Yes,
And that motion passes.
thank you, everyone. Moving along, we have the Sandy Mount subdivision.
Sorry. No. Nope.
Moving along.
So Chair, as you recall, Joe made the presentation on the Sandy Mount subdivision at the August full authority meeting. The Sandy Mount subdivision is the large subdivision that's going in in the city of St. Thomas. Staff identified a number of concerns during the report. One of them was that the lot creation along the south end of the subdivision was encroaching on erosion hazard limits. The backs of the lots were encroaching on an erosion hazard limit. The stormwater pond was proposed to go into significant valley lands, and there are significant grading works proposed on block 80 that seem to be premature in absence of adequate engineering rationale. Staff also identified concerns with a ravine trail being installed as well. Based on those staff concerns that were identified at the August meeting, the board passed a motion that the staff letters be approved for submission to the city of St. Thomas that outlined the concerns, and that staff be directed to stand firm on those recommendations without first reporting back to the board of directors. What I'm updating members on today is that I think we have a positive response from the city of St. Thomas and the developers. So outlined on the screen are those 4 concerns that staff had, as well as how the submission, mainly the letter from CJDL of September 6th, addressed the concerns. So the construction of the stormwater management pond has been moved south to respect the erosion hazard limit, and a geotechnical review was complete as requested by staff. the lot creations within the erosion hazard limit, the lot depths have been reduced and a separate block created to ensure that the hazard is not is owned separately outside of those lot creations. The significant grading proposed on block 80, there's staff are now satisfied with an engineering rationale that provided justification for encroachment into that hazard area as well. And the suggestion of an asphalt ravine trail within the ravine lands, there's been confirmation that that trail is not asphalt, but plans to be a naturalized hiking trail, which seems to address staff concerns as well. So based on that letter of September 6th, staff are recommending today that based on the letter submitted by CGDL on September 6th, that staff proceed to support the subdivision application and all the necessary section 28 permits.
Thank you. Requesting mover, JJ, would you like to move that?
Yes, thank you.
Thank you. And John? Questions or comments? Frank, go ahead, please.
Okay, just for clarification, Elizabeth, they will own the erosion hazard land, but cannot build on it. Is that how it works, or?
Basically, like when it was these lots along here
Yeah.
that were deep enough that we were going into the erosion hazard limit. So they have been brought back. And then there's a proposal now that there is that leaves a small strip of land here that's not owned. So I believe that there's talk in terms of joining that erosion hazard limit with this property to the south.
Okay, I got you. Yep, thank you.
Further questions or comments? Sam or Jerry, be good?
Yes,
Yes, I'm good.
Thank you. Then we're ready to call the question?
So on the motion, Frank Burrs,
Yes.
Jim Herbert is absent. Jerry Pribble,
yes,
Jay Strybosh,
Yes,
Sam Trousseau,
Yes,
John Wilson,
Yes,
and Lori Baldwin Sands.
Yes.
And that motion carries.
Thank you, everyone. Next is our monthly planning and regulations report. Elizabeth?
see,
Go ahead.
well, I'm not sure if like new businesses, if this is where I can bring something up or where.
Chair, I would just say we do the planning report and then there's an opportunity there.
I'll put it in there for you, John. Okay,
Thank you.
thank you.
Apologize.
Chair, the planning report was submitted and prepared by staff. Unless there's any questions, I think it was a pretty straightforward report.
Thank you. Can I get a mover and second report, please? John and Frank.
Frank Burrs,
Yes.
Jim Herbert,
Yep, I had already.
Jerry Pribble. Jerry,
yes,
JJ Strybosh,
yes,
Sam Trousseau,
yes,
John Wilson,
Yes,
Lori Baldwin Sands.
Yes,
And the motion passes.
thank you. Next, we've had a request for an item of new business. Go ahead, please.
yes, I've been speaking with one of my neighbors, Jim Crane. And with the media attention that we've been getting for the Deer Creek stuff, he was basically concerned because his great uncle had donated the Crane Conservation Area. And it had a restricted covenant on the property. And that property was like dozens and dozens of different tree species that were planted. And it was sold. It was under Elgin County's control to start, or I guess it was under Western University had it to start with. That's what it was originally donated to. then to Elgin County, then to Lower Thames. And anyway, even with these restricted covenants on the property, it was still sold to private users. A private owner, and now that owner wants to get the restricted covenant removed altogether. So I'm just wondering what we can do as a conservation authority to make sure that these properties that have donated to us don't go through that same sort of unfortunate like the conservation area is not there anymore. It wasn't big, but when someone donates land and it has a restricted covenant on it, and it's supposed to be a conservation area in perpetuity, I just wondered if there's anything that we can do as a conservation authority, because if this can go on, how can we put more teeth in what we're doing? Because when people give land, they expect it, when it says it's in perpetuity, that's exactly what they're thinking it means. So I'm just wondering if there's anything beyond. Well, I mean, they thought they had done everything they had to do in order to keep it as a conservation area. And that wasn't the case. But once the person's been dead for decades, I guess if the memory wears out, who's gonna stand up for that? And, you know, his great nephew is fighting about this. And I just wondered if there's like what we have for teeth as a conservation area or conservation authority to make sure that something like this doesn't happen. Like Lower Thames dropped the ball on this. I want to make sure that Kettle Creek doesn't drop the ball on any of these donations that we're getting.
Just a comment, the shocking thing is the lawyer for the purchaser should have flagged that, which would have been a stop on buying the property.
Should have been there.
You know, like they dropped, I don't know how many lawyers have dropped the ball on that.
There's a
Yeah.
lot of dropping the ball on this
All
particular.
right, nothing to do with us, but the
Yeah.
point is,
You're
They're supposed to search
Protections,
all the
etc.
things in, when you want
Yeah.
to sell something.
yeah, for sure.
Thank you for those comments. Elizabeth, do you have any comments or would you like to bring something back?
Well, preliminary comments, with Deer Ridge Conservation Area, I can only speak about our properties, our policies.
Yeah.
With Deer Ridge Conservation Area, it was acquired under the Ecological Gift Program, which does add a layer of protection. So it's registered with the Government of Canada because of the tax benefits to the donor. As a recipient of those, we would suffer deeply by trying to sell that in the future. We would have tax implications to us, and the Government of Canada would have a say basically, and why we are disposing of that at that time, because we've gone through that program. The other thing I will mention is part of the Conservation Authorities Act review, we've always had an acquisition policy, but as part of the updates to the Conservation Authorities Act, we are required to have an acquisition and disposition policy. And our policy was updated to that to account for disposition procedures and requirements in 2022. So at a future meeting, or it's available, I will say, because the public is watching, it is available online. That at a future meeting, if members choose, I can add it to the agendas. But just in short, the disposition procedures would include for something like a donation from a family, generally where the lands are donated to Cases Bay, the family who donated the property would be given first right of refusal to purchase or request a consent to sell unless otherwise stated in the terms of the donation of the bequest. And there's a whole other list of requirements and consultations that the authority would have to do. Now, based on that disposition policy, it wouldn't just be simply a decision of this board to go out and put out one of our donated parcels for sale. So I do believe this authority has added extra layers of protection, especially on recent donations and future donations. from people. I also would add that this authority doesn't take the acquisition of land lightly. So we're not going out there and just taking small acreages of land. Before we, as an authority, look at a donation, it's going through the acquisition policy as well, making sure that those parcels that we are acquiring are for the purposes of environmental protection, flood protection. It's not for the purposes of acquiring property to sell or make money in the future. We are acquiring property with the knowledge that those properties that we are acquiring, we're doing so to protect them in perpetuity. It's not done lightly. So I do believe that there's those layers of protection. I understand the sensitivity around donations of land to organizations like ourselves. And I certainly don't, and I don't think this board has ever taken the word perpetuity lightly.
Okay. It's unfortunate because in this particular case, the person who bought the land claimed lineage when there was none. And one of the person that, now they did recuse themselves, but the real estate agent was on the Lower Thames board. It's just, you know, there's
Sounds kind of messy. doesn't
it
it?
doesn't pass the sniff test, and
No.
I just want to make sure that, you know, something like that doesn't happen in Kettle Creek, so. I think you've answered that, but I think in this other case, they were also thought that they had the bases covered.
Interesting.
Yeah,
About the ethics of Lower Thames. I shouldn't say that. Don't put that in the record.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah. Okay. Find out with your wallet.
everything will be lost soon. You don't have to worry about it.
Moving along, we have a need to go into closed session. First, we want to go through the upcoming meetings.
Upcoming meetings, as I suggested, I'll be reaching out to the executive committee to set something up. And then our next full authority is October 16th. I will mention while we're in open session that I have asked the chair to add an agenda item under closed session, a legal item. I've requested to be added.
So that being stated, we have a need to go into closed. Can I get a mover and seconder, please? Jim, and we get somebody on JJ. You want to go help us go into closed, please?
Yeah, I second. Or
Thank you.
first.
Or last.
To go into closed at 10:42, Frank Burrs,
Yes.
Jim Herbert,
Yes.
Jerry Pribble,
Yes.
JJ Strybosh,
Yes.
Sam Trousseau,
Yes.
John Wilson,
yes.
and Lori Baldwin Sands.
Yes.
And that motion passes.